Welcome to today's explainer. What if I told you the Arabic alphabet isn't just a random collection of phonetic sounds, but an intricate system of hidden visual stories? Well, today, we're diving deep into the letter Nun to see how it carries this amazing kinetic meaning all on its own. Look at this quote. Letters hold secret meanings and tell a story of movement. It's wild to think about, right? A single, totally unassuming character can hold a complete narrative arc, movement, growth, and eventually absolute stability, all baked right into its shape and historical DNA. What we're looking at here is a complete visual and semantic map of our source material on the letter Nun. It breaks down the entire journey from ancient origins all the way to its role in modern verb structures. We're going to deconstruct this piece by piece to really grasp the secret life of this letter. So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the origin of Nun. Second, the philosophy of the letter. Then, Nun at the beginning, Nun in the middle, and Nun at the end. And finally, the complete action life cycle. Section 1. The origin of Nun, a fluid history. Because, to understand what a letter means today, we really have to look at its ancient roots. Tracing this evolution is literally like watching a time lapse of human communication. We start way back in the Phoenician era, where the symbol was actually a drawing of a fish or some kind of aquatic creature. Then, moving into the Aramaic era, it becomes this curved line and a hook shape in ancient Hebrew. By the Nabatean era, it simplifies into a smooth curve before finally becoming the modern Arabic letter Nun, which honestly kind of looks like a little bowl with a dot floating above it. So, why does all this matter? Well, that original Phoenician fish gives us the foundational meaning of the letter, fluid, continuous movement. It's not just a symbol, it's a living, moving entity navigating a path. Section 2, the philosophy of the letter, the concept of flow. Okay, so the absolutely crucial point here is this. Nun is the literal embodiment of extension. Think of it like a continuous current of water just flowing steadily toward an ultimate goal. It represents kinetic movement, whether that's happening in time or in space, pushing forward until it finally hits a state of stability and rest. Moving on to Section 3, Nun at the beginning, the spark of emergence. Now, Arabic is heavily built on three-letter roots, so let's see what happens when Nun actually takes the lead. When it's in the very first position, Nun acts as the spark. It's the starting point of that extension we were just talking about. It's this sudden bursting forth, an emergence from total stillness straight into dynamic action. Just picture a seed suddenly sprouting through the soil, or a sprinter exploding off the starting blocks. And you can see how perfectly the actual vocabulary aligns with the theory. Look at these verbs. Nabat means sprouting and emerging from hiding. Nama is growth and increase. Nahad is moving from a static state to an active one, like rising up. Nazal is descending, so a downward flow. And nafa is a benefit emerging and going out to others. It's wild, right? Every single one of these actions begins with a sudden burst of movement driven entirely by that initial nun. Section 4. Nun in the middle, the process of formation. So what happens when it's sandwiched in the middle of a root? Well, it no longer represents that initial explosive spark. Instead, it becomes the ongoing process of shaping. It takes that initial flow and forms it into something concrete. We're talking about the phase of ongoing growth, building structures, and setting actual boundaries for that movement. These verbs show this formation in action beautifully. Bana means to accumulate and build up over time, literally constructing something. Sana means transforming material and making something new. Yana is reaching the point of harvest. They perfectly demonstrate how the middle nun is all about steady, ongoing mechanics. It's not the start and it's not the end. It is the vital, active work happening right there in the middle. Now, before we look at the final position, I really want you to compare these two extremes. On the left, you've got the beginning position, explosive, kinetic energy, sprouting and launching. But on the right, as we move to the end position, that energy completely transforms. It becomes stability, potential energy, and anchoring. It's a complete shift in physics. Which brings us to Section 5, Nun at the end, the ultimate anchor. In this final stage, that flowing water has finally reached its basin. The journey is over. The kinetic movement of the Nun has arrived at its destination and is locked into a stable state. It completely represents settlement, stillness, and absolute stability. And see how this anchors the vocabulary? Saken literally means stillness after movement, or dwelling in a home. Shahan is storing or charging. Raken is psychological reliance, like leaning on something solid. Aman means arrival at safety, the end of fear. Are you noticing the pattern here? When none is at the very end of a word, it acts as a massive linguistic anchor, locking the meaning into a state of deep rest and security.
All right, section 6, the complete action life cycle, the macro view. We've looked at noon in isolation, but let's zoom out to see the bigger picture.
Here we see an incredible linguistic ecosystem formed by 3 specific letters, nun, meme, and kaf. Each has a highly specific macro function in our source map. Nun, as we now know, represents extension, flow, and reaching a goal. Meme represents containment, like gathering things into one central space, almost like a whirlpool. And kaf represents the grip, catching, holding, and taking total control of an object. Watch how this builds into a complete cycle. We can practically map out the hero's journey of an entire verb here. Step 1, launch an extension, governed by noon. The action begins and flows outward. Step 2, containment and formation, governed by meme. The action is gathered and moved inside a specific path. And step 3, grip and stability, governed by kaf. The action catches its object and locks into ultimate control. It's literally a flawless mechanical sequence happening right beneath the surface of the words. As this quote points out, every triliteral verb tells a story of movement. It launches with noon, forms and contains with meme, and grips and stabilizes with kaf. This leaves us with a truly profound realization from our sources. Language isn't just arbitrary sounds assigned to meanings. Every single Arabic verb holds an entire kinetic life cycle inside its structure. The letters themselves are the actual working gears turning the machinery of the action. How cool is that? It really makes you look at every word completely differently, doesn't it? I mean, if a single letter like nun contains an entire ancient philosophy of flow, emergence, and stability, what other hidden visual narratives are waiting to be uncovered in the languages we speak every single day? The next time you write down a word, maybe ask yourself, what secret story are these letters actually telling?